It's shiny. It's awesome. It's cool. It's a piece of hardware that I can give for my baby boy.
Porque eu não comi nada antes.
You know, absolutely. Hold on, I'm talking, brother. 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 Hold on, I'm talking, brother.
Hello, and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking, Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood, and you are listening to our UFC Fight Night Gamrot versus Sarukian review. And Tom Ballum, let's put this out there. One of the best main events of the year, perhaps, that we just saw?
So it was hotly billed. The real fight fans knew how good it was going to be, and yet it surpassed my expectations.
Yeah.
Incredible fight at the highest level. Cannot wait to get into it with you, Joe.
Yes, let's stop no messing around here. Let's go straight into it. This was the hardcore fans' fight. This was the fight for the hardcore fans, and a little bit disappointing that maybe it happened this early in their career or this early in their run in the UFC. But let's just savor the fact that this happened at all. Mateusz Gamrot defeats Armand Sarukian 48-47 on all three judges' scorecards. The scoring has been a bit controversial about this fight. I don't find it particularly controversial, even if my own scoring was significantly different from the result. Tom, I will throw to you. What was the score that you gave, and what rounds did you give to each fighter?
Right, Joe. So I've been looking forward to talking about this to you. Talking to this about the world. No.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, because I don't know what your take is as yet, and I also I've seen a little bit of murmurings in the community, but not delved into them too much. So I've been looking forward to getting into it on here.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tease you any longer. I scored this fight 49-46
to
Armand Sarukian.
Tom, I scored this fight 49-46 to Armand Sarukian as well.
Oh!
What rounds did you give Gamrot?
I gave Gamrot... Let me see.
I'll tell you right now. I gave Gamrot the third.
Yeah, I gave Gamrot the third also. I'm looking
at
my notes.
Yeah, that was the round that he had. I felt like he had the most control, and I thought that his output was the most impactful. That's where Sarukian started to drop. His output started to drop. It looked like he was starting to get tired. And I was thinking, oh man, Gamrot's going to take over. He's the former KSW lightweight champion and featherweight champion. You know, he's like, oh, he's got this experience. He's going to take over. But Sarukian dug deep for me and won rounds 4 and 5. Rounds 4, I'm pretty certain on that Sarukian won that. It was, Gamrot had quite a bit of control, if I remember correctly, in that round, but Sarukian had the knockdown off the spinning back fist, and that's why I gave him that round. And then round 5, to be honest, rounds 1 and 2, I'm pretty comfortable with it being to Sarukian, but I can see an argument for Gamrot maybe. Round 3, I was clear for Gamrot. Round 4, again, I'm happy to give it to Gamrot, even though for me, clearly Sarukian. And then round 5, exactly the same. Close as it gets. I'm not mad at Gamrot winning this fight, personally, even though I have seen some people are. Tom, for you, your reaction? The fact that it's so far off from you, are you annoyed?
No, I'm certainly not annoyed, Joe. I'm extremely grateful that I got to watch such an amazing fight. I mean, let's just talk about what made this fight so special.
That first round.
It's straight off the bat. I mean, what I have here in my notes is insane scramble times 2, and that's because these guys were just constantly active. I mean, anybody who thinks wrestling is boring, and I have to say, from time to time, I am a bit of an anti-wrestler type MMA guy. I want some swang and I want some bang, and I don't want any laying and praying.
Yeah, we want a bit of Jai Herbert out there. That's what we want.
I mean, live by the sword, die by the sword.
Exactly.
That's what we want. And here it was the perfect rebuke to anyone who doesn't like wrestling, Joe, because these guys would not accept a position even for a moment.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. There was no moment where either fighter was on their back, looking up, out of ideas. As soon as either fighter hit the map off a takedown, They were working to improve the position, transitioning, countering, unbalancing their opponent. It was just frenetic.
And even those moments where there was a slight pause, it was, I finally got a hold of him. I'm going to hold him for a minute, and then the other one would roll out of it. Gamrot, there was a bit, I think it was in round one, wasn't it, where he hit 2 Granby rolls to get out of Sarukian's grip, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. This is like the equivalent of like countering, striking, and that sort of like, but in wrestling terms, like if all MMA wrestling was like this, I don't think people would like despise it in the way that they do, because as they said in the commentary, these two guys aren't lay and pray wrestlers. They're not going to hold you down to try and win a round. They're going to take you down to advance position to then lay in ground and pound and attack submissions, and that is exactly what they did on the ground. And then on the feet as well, I've really got to give it up for them on this, because like this got into some like really interesting technical game planning of the striking, particularly Sarukian's kicks. The kicks to the body were incredible.
Yeah, out of both stances, Sarukian really ripping those kicks. I mean, that was the overwhelming theme of the fight, which led me to scoring Sarukian for those rounds, for those 4 rounds, because of his offense from the kicks. But he was there working against Gamrot, who was also firing straight shots from both stances. Really amazing. Again, like that first round, it really did set the tone for the fight. Something very definitive that happened in that round was that Sarukian, obviously, as a kicker, you're putting yourself at risk, especially against a wrestler who can, of course, catch the kick, lift you up in that treetop position, a la Teixeira versus Prohashka. The treetop, you lift the kick, catch the kick, lift it up high, and then sweep the leg to land the takedown. Gamrot had been game planning. He was ready for these kicks. He caught them. He hoisted Sarukian's leg up in the air.
I couldn't take him down. It was incredible.
I could not take him down. That was unbelievable balance from Sarukian. Like, really unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's what allowed him to put that kicking game on, is that his balance and dexterity was so incredibly good that he didn't put him at risk of the takedown.
The flexibility was incredible from both of these guys, you know, from working in the positions. But the one that's obviously so spectacular, as you say, is Sarukian's foot is way above his head, and he's got balance. And he's at one point he was even like firing off shots to try and get him.
He was landing shots.
He was landing shots on him every time. Like the other one would grab the other one, they were landing shots on one foot. And like they weren't worried about getting taken down, because they knew that like, well, I'll scramble or I'll just stay on my feet, or my foot, I should say. Like they were absolutely incredible. And as you say, that kicking game of Sarukian caught by Gamrot, and also Gamrot's counters, beautiful straights down the middle. And there's a couple really great exchanges when they both threw straights at the same time, landed simultaneously, and both stayed on their feet and kept going. Like it was absolutely fantastic, brutal fight, and also just highly technical. If you saw this fight in like the middleweight division, you would say this is the greatest fight of all time. But because it's the lightweight division, you just expect this level of greatness, don't you? Like these two guys are absolute hammers who should be avoided at all costs if you have a ranking at 5 or above. And I just, these two guys are absolutely the future. There are a bunch of guys at lightweight now where I feel like if they got fights now against the sort of older guard, they would rip through them quite quickly. And these are two of those guys. We talked about it last week. Like there is a wave of these guys, and they are not to be messed with at all.
Joe, it's a tsunami. I mean, it's really. I mean, my God. Now, Gamrot, the man who did emerge victorious in this fight, he had lost to Kutateladze, who himself lost to Ismagulov just a week ago. So, you know, it's really terrifying. If you are, well, Rafael dos Anjos,
Gaethje.
Tony Ferguson, Gaethje, I mean, Poirier as well. Yeah. You're in danger.
Let's talk about. I just want to go back to the fight as well, just for a moment. There was also, even when there was like a somewhat neutral position, this was something that really stood out to me in this fight, that they would get into these clinch positions and they would find angles on each other that you don't normally see because of their grappling prowess. Like, they were coming at each other from these really strange angles. I remember Sarukian hit him with this elbow off a clinch break, where it was almost like, parallel to him that he landed on there. Like, the positions they were finding themselves in, you just do not see that often because of their ability on the mat. And also, just as the adjustments they made, in like the fourth and fifth round, particularly in the fifth, Sarukian was landing like this double jab with a right straight right behind it. And he kept doing that over and over again. So then Gamrot, as he sees he's throwing this jab, threw like this like really low leg kick to sort of like start throwing Sarukian off. Going like, all right, I can't double jab because I know that this guy's going to be throwing a leg kick from there. They were adjusting to each other at all times, and it was absolutely sublime. And Gamrot had, and he hit this a few times as well, a beautiful 1-2 counter as well. Sarukian would throw a big shot, Gamrot would slip, 1-2 counter down the middle. My last comment that I wrote in my notebook was, wow, what a fight. And it completely blew me away. And as I said, I gave it 4 rounds to 1 Sarukian, and I'm not angry at it being 3-2 Gamrot. And all the judges are consistent, 3-4-5 to Gamrot, 1 and 2 to Sarukian.
Yeah, I was wondering. So that does bring up one slight talking point then, because you're talking about reacting to one another. I mean, it did seem, much to my surprise, actually going in, that Gamrot had the slight edge in the wrestling, the slight edge, enough that you saw little glimpses of the first couple of rounds, and we know Sarukian's prowess in that area, so. Wasn't expecting that to be an area that could be exploited by Gamrot, but he was just slightly 55% to 45% ahead in those exchanges, not able to get off any damage. And they did go further into that game as the fight went on. Sarukian definitely faded. In the third round, I've got written down here tiring. Looking up at the clock in the fourth, Sarukian was definitely. He was feeling that pace that Gamrot was putting on him. And Gamrot, he did have a lot of control time in those later rounds. He was able to take the back. But for me, Joe, he didn't get off enough offense for me to give him those rounds.
I am somewhat in agreement with you. Round 3 is the one
Round 3 I gave to him.
Which is interesting as well, because if you look at the stats, Sarukian did land more. Although Gamrot's percentage of landing was a lot higher. This fight was actually... I say that. the whole fight, only round 1, Sarukian had like 5 more significant strikes landed. Round 2, he had 1. Round 3, he had 2. Round 4, he had 3. And in round 5, he had 3. We're talking about minimal difference there. Like, this isn't a big deal.
But he did have the heavier shots throughout the fight.
For sure.
Sarukian.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think Gamrot will be able to land heavier ground and pound on people that aren't Arman Sarukian or Islam Makhachev. Like, this guy is a hammer, an absolute hammer, and he has now taken Conor McGregor's ranking. They've swapped rankings, these two. Gamrot's now ranked number 7, and yeah. And McGregor is ranked 11th now, behind Sarukian.
Well, I'm glad to have a professional sharing the mic with me here, because I've got to say, Joe, I hadn't seen the rankings there. I kind of just assumed these guys would be getting stiffed.
Tony Ferguson number 5, and then like these two 9 and 10, like they just literally move up 1 each.
It is interesting. Now, you've caused me to go and just check that now. Great to see Gamrot go into the top 10. But what's more interesting there for me is Sarukian is still there lurking at 11.
Yeah.
So I think they're recognising we've got some killers on the come up. Can't deny them anymore. Yeah, no, there really is that place. Sorry, Gamrot's ranked at 8th now, I should say. But I had this thought, was that... Joe, wait, sorry. One thing. Where is this Magulov? I'm looking for him. And I cannot find him in the rankings.
He is not ranked.
Joe.
That's insane.
Joe, he's won 6 fights in a row, hasn't he?
Yeah, yes.
He's beaten the guy who was the only guy to beat Gamrot. What's going on, Joe? What is going on?
We'll get to that in a minute. Right. Let's talk about this. Who do we want next for Gamrot? There's one name for me.
Oh, wow. Gaethje? He called it himself.
Gaethje.
You're done, son. You're done.
Bro, you are cooked. Chandler was the other name I was thinking of.
Oh, but you like Chandler too much, Joe. We know your bias.
He's got that Joe Greenwood privilege, hasn't he? Like it's just...
He's got the Joe Greenwood privilege.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, look, we've got Makhachev and Dariush. That's the next one for the belt, the winner of that fight. Is that fight definitely happening?
No, it hasn't been announced yet. It's kept being put off. I know. For me, that's the fight to make. Winner faces Charles later in the year. But
it's also
I think
Fiziev and Dos Anjos, right? Is
that's
the other
in 2
fight
weeks.
happening. Yeah, wow. It's all going on at lightweight.
Yeah. Invest in lightweight right now. Drop your hipster's choice of bantamweight. Get back in with the classics. Respect the classics, okay? As for Sarukian, fucking... Who gives a shit? Fucking give him anyone. I don't want Ismagulov. I don't want Ismagulov.
Or Kutateladze.
I
Let
want
these guys shine. Let them ride.
Sarukian hooker. Give it to me.
Oh, fuck's sake. Fuck's sake, Joe.
They're ranked.
Joe, that's not on. That's hate. That's hate speech right there.
Right. Well, who do you want for Sarukian?
I want to keep the New Zealand listeners on board. Dan Hooker, we like you. We respect you.
I love a bit of hooker. I love a bit.
Yeah, I love a bit of hooker. Maybe the loser of Fiziev Dos Anjos.
That was the other one in my mind as well. Yes, that would be a banging fight. Yeah, that would be fine by me as well. Right. Should we talk about the co-main event in which another contender emerges? Shavkat Rakmanov defeats Neil Magne, a man who's willing to take on anyone at any time by guillotine choke. 2 seconds left of round 2, and Magne couldn't tough it out. Rakmanov, he showed that there was levels to this game, didn't he? And Magne was not on his level.
No, it's one of those that's so comprehensive you can't help. Whilst of course we're going to give a lot of credit to Shavkat. I mean, he just vanquished Magne so comfortably, neutralized any output that Magne would have. Now Magne survived these onslaughts in the past to come back stronger later on and to really give the test. He wasn't able to here. Was that because Shavkat was just so good?
Yeah. Shavkat's that good. He was like so controlled in this fight. Like this is why he's not the people's number one choice when it comes to welterweight, because he's not this showy guy. You know, his style is controlled, it's measured, and it's well thought out. And you see it in when he fights. He's not this wild man that's going to go forward. Even with his ground and pound, he'll only sort of unleash the ground and pound when he's in a position that his feel is comfortable. And you notice this is that when his feet are planted, he doesn't like throwing ground and pound from his knees, and he likes to stack his opponent as well. Some of the ground and pound was really well thought out as well. There's some really nice body shots in there from the ground and pound. You don't normally see that because everyone just like head hunting. But Shavkat's aware that the body isn't going to move like the head, so he's going to start throwing to the body. And his body shots were so precise in that position. Stacking Magne up. I know Magne was attacking for a heel hook, but he was nowhere near. And that was mostly just to sort of like try and keep Shavkat off of him. And even Shavkat wasn't really that bothered by the looks of it. And then patiently builds to a guillotine choke, sinks it in, and gets the finish. This guy's a contender, and I do not want to see him fight Chimaev until it's for a title shot. I don't want to see these guys fight before that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's the same discussion again that we've had at lightweight. Now Shavkat, he has been pushed up the rankings off this win over Magne. He's up to rank 10 now. Yeah. Now we've got again these guys sitting in the top 10. We've got Jorge Masvidal. Yeah.
Wonderboy Thompson, who he called out. I loved his call out, by the way. It was a very, very little cheeky way that he did it. The name that stands out to me, though, Vicente Luque. That is the fight. I would love to see that fight.
Oh.
Do you want to see him? Do you want to see him against Wonderboy Thompson? I just don't think Wonderboy's got anything to offer him. Luke feels like... Go on.
It seems unfair to Gilbert, but I know. But he had such a good showing against Chimaev. He is the test, and like Luke is such a precious commodity in this wrestler heavy division. It's almost like I want to pick special fights just for Luke. I'd quite like Luke Masvidal actually, but
that sounds banging. That sounds banging.
Yeah. You've also got guys like Covington. You know, how long can he sit up there?
Not long. Not long. I really think that Covington has to pick his next fight carefully, because it can't be Chimaev. I just don't like his chances in that fight. I know that Chimaev Bilal Muhammad is being talked about for October in Abu Dhabi. Again, if I'm Covington as well, I'm avoiding Rakmanov as much as I can. But there aren't that many guys there that he can really fight realistically. You know, is he gonna? I mean, what is Covington gonna ask for a Wonderboy Thompson fight?
Well, I was about to say I wouldn't want to see Covington fight Burns, although that's a fight that, you know, kind of should happen. These again, two guys coming off of losses. You've got to fight down. You've got to give somebody a chance to come up and break into that area. So yeah, there's not an obvious matchup for Covington. Covington, especially if Sean Brady is going to fight Kevin Holland.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know. I would be surprised if Covington took the Rakmanov fight. If he did do it, I would say fair play, and you're trying to get yourself into a contender shot again. But he's not going to do that. He's too clever to do that. Or cowardly would be another word.
I think Colby would fancy his chances against Bilal. You know, if that fight didn't get made, I think he would want that kind of fight. Bilal sitting at rank 5 right now. I think that's a winnable matchup for him against a guy who's built a streak of his own now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But Rakmanov, a couple fights away, I think, and he'll be right there, I think, for a contendership title shot.
I mean, those Kazakh fans, Joe, they're going to be.
Oh, can I talk about this in the main event when they were walking out, Sarukian and Gamrot? Those Armenian lads. Oh my god, that was absolutely booing Gamrot as he came out, and then cheering on Sarukian, and that one lad with the suit and the fucking shirt like opened up down to the fucking belly button. Incredible. Absolutely loving those lads. Fair play for making some atmosphere in there.
Yeah, more of that.
Should we talk about the rest of this card? There's not a huge amount here, but let's go up from... Should we go from the heavyweight fight, or should we go from the middleweight fight up?
Joe, you're not going to bring the pod into disrepute and make me talk about that heavyweight.
Let's talk about it. Joe,
that was just a sloppy mess. I cannot talk in the same podcast about Sarukian versus Gamrot and who was it? Bordeaux versus
Josh Parisian.
Oh,
that was awful, wasn't it? You texted me and said this heavyweight fight is sloppy, and I showed you my notes that just said heavyweight slop. I mean, the finish was hilarious. I mean, it was TKO from being tired. Like, that wasn't like ground and pound. That was like, he was like, just fucking get me out of here. They were talking about, the hammering ground and pound on the commentary. It's just like, it's not Khabib, is it? I mean, Jesus Christ, that was awful. Anyway,
what did you make of Josh Parisian at the end of the first round there? Kind of like looking up at the ref like, I can't go much longer. Call it off. Not because he's getting punched, but because he's getting tired from punching Bordeaux, who's kind of on his hands and knees, not responding. Not because he's eating heavy shots, just because he's just timed out. He's finished. His output is over.
It was one of those that made me question whether we should even bother with the heavyweight division. Like, as much as I love Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades and Francis and all that, I almost feel like we should get rid of heavyweight, because that fight was appalling. Yeah, go on.
Well, no, I was just going to say, this for me now, Joe, it's in the same category as other divisions within the sport, which you have become the specialist in covering, and I have retired from. Well, I mean, what I'm saying, I just can't, Joe. I just can't be dragged down by this. I cannot.
Since when am I an expert on women's bantamweight? Like, this is like, there's nothing I really want to talk about there. Anyway, can we please move on, because this is I don't even want to talk about this.
Well, Joe, I mean, let me put it like this to you, because for me, I wasn't that taken with the rest of this card, especially coming off the high of last week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pass the mic over to you. Is there something you want to highlight, something you'd like to bring up from this card? I mean, you've got, of course, Arman Nurmagomedov marching through pretty soft opposition, Joe.
Yeah.
Not a real test. A gimme, a canter crush. No offense to Nathan Manes.
Yeah, that was
a fight
15 minutes you just had to get through. It was just 15. And I'm a little bit annoyed he's been ranked now because of that. He's ranked 15. Yanez has been knocked out of the rankings after a week.
Wow, is that? I was about going to say, who's given up the place? It's really Yanez, is it?
Yanez, yeah. And it's like, I'm not cool with that. Like, I think Yanez has done more to deserve that. Because also, I'm watching this fight and I'm like, Nurmagomedov should be smashing this guy. Like, he should be aggressively passing into more aggressive positions. He's clearly a lot better than him on the ground. Just kind of played it safe. Some nice kicks in there. I wasn't that impressed, to be honest. This guy is obviously going to be a contender down the line. But he shouldn't be ranked now, and he should be on a slower build, I think. I know he wants to get a title shot within the next 2 fights, but not for me, off of performances like that. Guess the only other thing I really want to mention... Oh, Thiago Moises had a really cool submission win. That sort of rear naked choke where he was pulling his elbow across. It was a very odd sort of rear naked choke. You had the choke arm in, and instead of locking in the hand to the bicep, sort of like put the other arm over the choke arm and sort of pulled it in via the elbow. Very interesting. And then Chris Curtis gets another win. Nice feel-good story here over Rodolfo Vieira. Added 3 rounds to Curtis.
Same.
Excellent takedown defense, but Rodolfo Vieira was just spamming the same takedown over and over again.
And the guy is so slow, robotic. He's got that classic Brazilian juice body, you know.
Yeah.
He's got, the robotic motion.
Yeah. Great body work from Curtis in this fight, though.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, unlike Rodriguez, RoboCop, he is actually an old man.
He's been booked into another fight, Rodriguez.
Okay.
I need to find this. I'll find it in a moment, but it was a banger when I saw it. Anyway, let's move on.
Are you sticking by that matchup, Chris Curtis versus Joaquin, your boy, the Buckley?
I mean, you turned me around with that Weidman call, where I was just like, damn, like poor Weidman getting sacrificed there. But
Joe, I just think that's beautiful. The All-American, the New Yorker,
the hero, the All-American, and Chris Weidman. Like that's I'll try and find this Gregory Rodriguez fight. All I'm seeing is... Oh, here we go. No, that's not it. Chidi Njoukani, set for September. He's a banger. He throws out some banging fights. So I'm looking forward to seeing Gregory Rodriguez in that one. Anyway, we were talking about the lightweight division earlier, as was Damir Ismagulov, who was talking about his fight to Russian media against Kutateladze. Just quickly he was talking about the judges' decision. He said that I know that Guram was dissatisfied with the referee's decision. He said referees, but he means judges. I saw the fight several times, and I'm sure I won the second and third rounds. As for the assessment of the third judge, I don't know. Kutateladze hit me more in the first round, but it was from defensive positions. I was more accurate. Do you feel like he's off base with that one, talking about that fight? Or
no. I mean, you remember that, of course, I scored it 2-1 for Kutateladze, but I think it'd be hard to argue that Ismagulov wasn't the more accurate striker overall.
Yeah, it's yeah.
But what's his beef? He won the fight. What's?
I know. Well, his other beef was that they weren't given fight the night bonus. We were not given the fight the night bonus when, in fact, we had a great match. Technically and tactically, highest level of fighting, tension, everything was in this confrontation. Our fight was faster paced than Keita versus Emir. But what can we do? We did not get the bonus, and that's it. We should not be sad because of that. We were two warriors against each other, and I want to show huge respect to Guram. Fair enough.
I agree with all of that.
And then he talks about the lightweight division. In general, I do not understand what is happening in this division. There are several fighters in the top 15 with too many losses, but no one touches them. It was very difficult for me to find an opponent. Guram is in a similar situation. We do not have a ranking. Higher ranked fighters don't want to lose their place, and none of us had a choice, so we had to fight against each other. I really do not want to fight with the guys from the former Soviet Union countries, because we have a lot of fighters of other nationalities in the rankings ahead of us that we can fight with, and I think I deserve that too. I don't understand who sets these rankings. I was told that experts, journalists, etc. These people have nothing to do with real MMA. Wow, he is shooting hard right here, and I 100% agree.
Yeah,
100% agree.
Clearly, if he was listening last week, he wouldn't bunch "Hold On, I'm Talking Brother" in with those classic MMA journalists.
Yeah, those
because
jabronis.
we were shooting from the hip. Now, I'm a bit worried about what's going to come next. Before I sign up to everything that Ismagulov has to say, I'm not sure our worldviews align entirely.
I don't really want to know if he has like any relationship with your man Kadyrov or anything. But
well, yes, and then the reference to fighting guys from the ex-Soviet Union.
Yeah,
someone's trying to recreate that same union as we speak is a uncomfortable position to be in. But as far as MMA goes, he's totally right. And it just can't stand. It can't stand any longer. The thing is, though, Joe, outside of top tier podcasts like Hold On, I'm Talking Brother, who's going to take this line? Who's listening to Ismagulov? Who's reading these reports? I feel like it's a real minority of fans, and this status quo is likely to continue.
And it's sad. But I'd rather be right than like just say. And this is why I feel like on this podcast we don't talk about Nate Diaz fighting Jake Paul and, you know, what Dana White has to say about it and those things. Because, in all honesty, I'm not interested. I'm interested
Joe.
Come on. We got standards here. We got standards. Go on.
It sounds like we're on the other side of the Cold War, Joe. We're the Reds.
Fine by me. Fine by me. Look, let's move on. Well, I'm sure. Well, we'll be talking about the lightweight division again after this upcoming pay-per-view, as there is a banging lightweight fight on the prelims, Brad Riddell versus Jalen Turner, which is going to be a stonker. But let's talk about the main card very quickly for UFC 276. We're not going to do our predictions. We'll be back on Thursday to do that.
Honey dick.
Oh, yeah.
We're honey dicking the fans there, Joe. You know, you piqued their interest. But you're going to have to come back, guys.
You're going to have to come back, where we will break this shit down in detail. UFC 276. Slight card change here. Lauren Murphy versus Miesha Tate has been taken off the main card.
Joe.
I know.
Joe, come on.
I know.
You're trying to kill off the hype for this already.
I know. I'm sorry. Lauren Murphy has COVID. So, originally, they were going to bump up Cerrone and Miller, but instead, they've bumped up Brian Barberena versus Robbie Lawler to the pay-per-view main card. Tom was he's pulled the face of just like, I've just like smelled something terrible. You not into that fight? Well, you're gonna have to be. I'll tell you that much.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to give my opinion on that on Thursday, as is our mandate when we give our predictions. No, Joe. I mean, all those fights are the same. I'm not hearing any change.
Are you like me, where you think you have to put your best foot forward on the pay-per-view, and it's like that should be Riddell Turner in that slot, like that should be that fight.
Well, I was pleased to see at least wasn't there talk of O'Malley Munoz going down to the prelims? So, that would have been outrageous.
So before Murphy Tate was taken off, Jim Miller lost. Bobby Green pulled out of his fight with Jim Miller, and Donald Cerrone stepped in to make it a welterweight fight, which then promptly got moved to the pay-per-view card, knocking O'Malley down to headline the prelims. Now, I was raging about this. And then 24 hours later, they changed their tune, apparently due to outcry. They turned it round. And Sean O'Malley and Pedro Munoz went back to the pay-per-view and saved us all from having to talk about Jim Miller versus Donald Cerrone.
I mean, Jim Miller, Donald Cerrone, and Barberena Lawler on the same card.
No. It was going to be Tate Murphy was still going to be on that. Mate.
Joe, all three of those fights are the same. My responsibility is the same. All right. If there was going to be more than one of them, I might have been, picketing outside the arena.
Yeah.
Don't cross this line. Don't watch this shit because, come on, that's not what we're here to see. We're here to see the future.
Now, the pay-per-view is stacked. There are at least 4 great fights on there, in my opinion, or at least 4 interesting fights. And there'll be a lot to talk about on Thursday. But first of all, I've got a question for you about this card on Saturday. And it's about Israel Adesanya. I said it correctly. Where does Izzy stand right now in the MMA fan community to you, Tom? And what does this Jared Cannonier fight do for him?
The Cannonier fight, for me, it really doesn't move the needle that much. I don't think... I mean, he's already been dismembered by Whittaker, His Adesanya's henchman. So
Okay.
that doesn't move the needle for me much. Where does he stand in the community? I mean, I would hope that he stands with a lot of respect on his name. He's been taking all comers. He's been beating everyone who's put in front of him.
It doesn't seem that way, though. It really doesn't seem that way. Like, he's clear sort of in the lineage of Anderson Silva, of like advanced striker, so far ahead of the game in terms of striking. But he just doesn't have that love that I feel like Anderson Silva had. I don't know if you're maybe not agreeing with me on this, but it feels like Izzy may have lost some of the fans with his recent fights. There were people who said Whittaker won that second fight. Wrong. There were people who said that Romero won the fight. Again, not for me. It's just weird how it feels like the community slightly turned against him.
Well, Joe, I mean, I'll say this. Like, you've just had my initial reaction to the Cannonier fight. Cannonier is the only man for him to fight in that division right now. I don't see anyone else. Yeah. And obviously, Israel's... I mean, I'm not excited about that fight. Not just because Israel's so far ahead, but because in his previous matchups, he's not had a performance like the first Whittaker fight. He's cruised. You remember that Anderson Silva fight? I think it was in the Gulf where he just ran around.
Meyer.
Damian Maya,
right? Yeah.
And now I'm not accusing Adesanya of that. He has to fight the guys in front of them. He has to play into their matchups. We know how dangerous the likes of Romero are, but I think that has had an impact, and I recognise that myself in saying I'm not that excited about the fight. Now, you yourself were, and presumably still are, a huge Adesanya fan.
Yeah.
Do you think he should have the same excitement and interest that he had previously when he was on the come up, when he was on the rise?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel it for this fight, Joe?
No, I don't. Oh, what you mean in myself?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean myself?
Measuring the hype gauge.
I'm always excited to watch Adesanya. I'm always excited to watch him. So I'm never not gonna watch him.
Have you rewatched the last Whittaker fight?
No, why would I do that? That sounds awful. I've watched the Paulo Costa fight 10 times. That fight is incredible.
That was a clinic.
That was an absolute methodical.
I mean, a horrible matchup for Costa. Well, a horrible game plan. It was really didn't watch any tape. Had no idea what to expect. I mean, really. So I don't know. Maybe, I think Cannonier will be a more willing dance partner. I think he has to be.
Hopefully.
I think he has to. Hey, you're teasing me, Joe. You're pulling me in. We're going to save this to Thursday.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I wanted to wrap this up, but I just wanted to get your initial feelings on Izzy, because there's so much to talk about this. I mean, there's the trilogy fight between Volkanovski and Holloway. There's the Pereira-Strickland fight. We got Munoz versus O'Malley. There's a lot to talk about there.
Look,
and there's a lot to talk about this main event as well. Let
me answer that just very quickly. Just I can feel the adrenaline level. It's climbing with those fights you've just referenced. All right, those are the fights I'm excited for.
Yeah,
not the Izzy fight.
Do you know what it is? I partly agree with you because I'm most excited about Izzy. I'm most excited to see what he's going to do and whether Cannonier can do anything to him. Right. Now, Tom, I've put that out there to you. What are you going to give me?
You want an opportunity to pontificate, Joe?
Absolutely, always. Go on,
right.
Lay it on me. So, Tom, tell me what you found the other day.
Well, Joe, we were looking at this fight night card, and we were so excited about Gamrot and Sarukian, and then the feeling was that after that, what are we going to give the fans? What are they tuning in for?
Of course.
And they're tuning in for Joe's hot takes.
Are these my hot takes, or are there others? There are other people.
These are your reactions. You've seen, this is all the rage now on YouTube.
The hot
reaction
take.
videos, Joe. And I'm going to spit out some hot takes that I found on the Reddit MMA. Shout out to that community right there, which is great.
The best.
Again, I wouldn't want to align my views entirely with what might be said on that forum.
No, not at all.
That's a surefire way to end up being delisted from iTunes, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. But nonetheless, they do provide some good humour on occasion and some good talking points. So I'm going to list some of the hot takes given by the community, and I want to see your reaction to them, Joe. So, okay. First one here. Now, this ties in very well with the fight that we were just talking about, Sarukian Gamrot. Not enough points are taken away in fights due to penalties.
Yeah, I agree with that. Joe, feel like
should Sarukian have lost a point at the weekend? He was grabbing the cage. He was grabbing gloves.
Oh, the glove grab was hilarious.
He was also landing punches off. When they were touching gloves at the beginning. He was attacking off that.
That's just game planning, bro. Like, all right, we've touched gloves. Let's get to it. I feel like once you touch gloves, you got to go straight into it. Like, no messing around. So that one doesn't bother me. I was more bothered by the cage grabbing, and that there wasn't a clear warning of like, we're stopping the fight, I'm having a word with you. Why don't referees do that? Is it because they feel like I've got to be outside this and allow these things to happen, and I'll talk about it afterwards if it's particularly egregious?
I think in between rounds, I think the ref did go over the top with Sarukian.
Oh, fair enough. I
think that did happen.
It's more eye gouging, eye pokes, and low blows that bother me. There was particularly although saying that as well, that gets into funny territory. That Chris Curtis Vieira fight,
yeah,
where Curtis was fucking milking it, and then on one of them he was actually hit
a low blow.
Yeah,
the second one wasn't a low blow.
The second one wasn't, and then there was a third one where they looked at it back as they were watching, like, oh yeah, that was definitely low, and he's having to fight through it. It's like, it's just bizarre.
Well, Joe, we're getting into the weeds here, but in that fight, the ref did take a point, and then the scorecards came back 29-28. They just dismissed the taking of the point anyway. So
yeah, bizarre. I mean, that's I don't know. There's a lot of people getting on the judges at the moment, for their quote clerical errors, and maybe not even being consistent. This was something that came up in the Sarukian Gamrot fight, was that the judges favoured Gamrot's control in rounds 4 and 3, whereas they judged the Tyler Santos-Shevchenko fight, and Santos had more control and the same amount of damage, and they gave it to Shevchenko instead. So it's like they're not even being consistent within themselves. But in terms of the points thing, low blows, I'm saying one warning, and then you're getting points taken away. I think it should be that clear a thing. The fence grabbing, I feel like it's such like a natural thing to do because you got your hand there.
Let me stop you right there.
Go on.
If you're going to land a takedown and it's prevented by a man grabbing the fence,
then you take a point. I don't know.
Or give them the position or something.
Yeah.
Right. Next one, Joe.
Go on.
Something closer to your heart. You can control any man by his asshole.
What? What are you talking? What?
Hot takes, Joe. You can control any man by his asshole.
You mean like an oil
You
check?
can interpret that in any way you wish to. Is it agree or disagree?
I mean, I think you're vulnerable if someone's controlling you by the arsehole. So yeah, I'm going to go with yes, most likely.
Right.
Thank
agreed.
you for that one. Okay, agreed.
All right. Let's see. Way more fights should be scored as draws.
Disagree.
Yeah.
Disagree. I don't like this 10-10 thing because it also doesn't follow the ruling of the sport. Like, a 10-10 round would be two people circling each other in the middle, not throwing anything. Like, it was like, if two fighters throw and land 4 strikes, you have to judge whose 4 strikes had the most impact for you. And I like that. I like that forcing of that. If we're getting into 10-10... Also, there's not enough rounds, I think, for 10-10. It's not boxing. You got 12 rounds to work and get through it and get to... Like,
but at the same time, if you're going to give more 10-10s, you would also, in my view, you give more 10-8s. But okay,
yeah, that's the flip side of that. That's the flip side of that. But yeah, I'm against the whole draw thing. Yeah, 10. No, I like the 10-9. You have to get that. I prefer that. Personally, because I just don't want draws. I don't want draws in the sport. I don't want. Look, there's so many guys with weird MMA records anyway, where they end up being contenders somehow. Like, you look at Masvidal's record, where it's like, 40 wins and 15 losses. Imagine if it was like, 36 wins, 10 losses and 9 draws. You'd be like, Jesus Christ, what is this? Like, this looks awful. So I prefer it because it just allows for a bit more, I don't know, bit cleaner, the records. But that's just me. Anyway, next. Give me 2 more.
Okay.
Give me 2 or 3 more.
Okay, let's go. So,
can you control a man by the testicles?
Yes. I almost can't bring myself to say this one.
Go on.
Prime McGregor would beat everyone in the top 5
of lightweight.
Yeah.
Prime McGregor
Now,
was a
our
featherweight
top 5 right now. Our top 5 now does include Islam Makhachev.
Well, no, he's not beating him. I don't think he beats Charles Oliveira. Current Charles Oliveira. Maybe Gaethje. I'd say maybe Gaethje. Who else? Is Poirier in the top 5?
Poirier is in the top 5. Poirier is ranked number 2, Joe.
Great. Fair and just system. And who's the 5th guy?
The 5th guy is Michael Chandler.
Maybe. So Gaethje and Chandler were the 2 that I'd say maybe. The other 3 definitely not.
McGregor versus Chandler next?
Yes. Yeah, that's the fight for me. That's the fight. Although, I'll put this out there. If Volkanovski destroys Holloway, Volkanovski versus McGregor at lightweight.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think that goes well for Conor.
Oh my god, I think that's terrible. But he does have considerable range over Volk.
Maybe. Anyway, 2 more. Give me a couple more. By the way, what do you say to that? Do you think he beats any of that top 5?
Any of the top 5? Well, we've seen him fight Poirier. There's no chance he beats.
But we're talking about
Oliveira.
Prime McGregor. Are we talking?
All right, Prime McGregor.
What is Prime McGregor? Is that the Aldo win? Is it the Eddie Alvarez win?
It's Alvarez. Alvarez is the signature performance. Going up a weight class against a man favoured to beat him, a veteran of the sport, and he just dismantled him. I mean, you can't take that away from Conor.
That is like an absolute pure 10 out of 10 performance. Yeah, isn't it? Like,
Yeah. Oh, that's in the pantheon for me, Joe. I'll always remember that.
Yeah.
That night.
Yeah, I'd say Gaethje and Chandler would be the 2 that I would favour that McGregor to win.
And Poirier, perhaps.
I
mean,
yeah,
that McGregor beat, a diminished Poirier, who's since gone on to better stuff. But I would, we've got to remember, going into the rematch at lightweight, McGregor was the favourite, and that's because of the clinic he put on against Poirier at featherweight. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, there's no world in which McGregor beats Makhachev or this version of Oliveira.
Agreed.
End of. All right, I'll give you one more, Joe, to sign off the pod on.
You got a good one.
The MMA fan base is largely alt-right trash.
I think I think there's a lot of people that go to these live events that have views that I would not want to hear, even on the sport.
Team Ismagulov, down with America.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not. Yeah, the politics of MMA is a dodgy and deep, dark world. It's definitely. I don't know how you feel about this, but Maybe other than... Is there any other sport that's more right-wing than this?
Hunting.
Jesus Christ. Rugby? We're going to say rugby? Because that's a bit Tory, isn't it? That's a bit Tory, though. That's not like this.
Yeah, it's a different
You know,
type.
cricket's another one where it's kind of got some... yeah, it's probably got the worst politics going. It is, if we're being honest as well, a largely white fan base. You know, it appeals to that sort of fan base as well. And if have you heard the politics of some of these fighters? Like, it's appalling. And even people that I like. So I try not to look at that stuff, to be honest.
Joe, let me take the corporate angle here. Given we don't want to alienate the listeners out there. Now, of course, we're not referring to anyone who might listen to this podcast.
No,
you do not belong in that camp. You are people of
taste.
taste.
What do you say? What do you say to that, though? That it's largely an alt-right cesspool.
I guess I would try to take a more a less weighted, more abstract overview. You know, I don't want to group people together like that. I can certainly say that there's very few people within MMA that I would just lump my views in with indiscriminately. I would need to take it on a case-by-case basis because really I would be concerned about what any person might say within this sport. I really feel like that.
Yeah, it's hard being a fan of people, isn't it? Where even Izzy has said some stuff where I'm like, oh man, that's...
He certainly has, Joe.
Has. That's not cool. That's not cool. I don't know. And then there's always they have this sort of babyish reaction of crying about cancel culture, and it's like, bro, the UFC took your sponsorship already. You ain't getting cancelled, son. It's already done. So yeah, I try. Yeah, the only one that I would be really heartbroken about if it turned out that Robert Whittaker is an absolute neo-Nazi or something. That would absolutely break my heart. I don't think I could watch the sport anymore. Obviously, I don't. Yeah, I mean, he did used to call himself. What did he call himself? The biracial.
What?
Something or other. Yeah.
Oh no, Joe, stop.
Yeah. No. So I don't think it was anything too bad. But
are you sure?
Yeah. I'll try and find it. But it wasn't too bad. Anyway, we're going way out into the weeds here. We need to get Kareem Zidane on to talk about this. Never mind me and you rambling through
Joe.
Through this.
Joaquin Buckley, Kareem Zidane, Joe Greenwood, and Tom Ballum. We'll break it down for you. Hold on.
The racial politics of MMA and the soft power that comes with it potentially. Anyway, Tom, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much. We will be back on Thursday to break down UFC 276. We gave you a little tease there. We're not selling wolf tickets, brother. We are giving you the good shit on Thursday. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thanks,
any parting words?
See you Thursday.
And big up the lightweight division. Thank you very much. And goodbye, listeners. Goodbye.